30. Rabe was about to return home that afternoon when Mr. Kazuo Okazaki, the Consul General of Japan, came to call. All the refugees must leave the safety zone and return to their homes. He said this with care and concern in his voice. He was sitting on a sofa across from Rabe, holding a cup and saucer of coffee in one hand. Behind him, several members of his staff stood at attention silently against the wall. "May I inquire as to why, Your Excellency?" Rabe asked. "Because we want them to go home and open their shops as soon as possible so that life will return to normal again." "As to that, sir," Rabe said, "I'm in agreement with you. However, I believe you have seen enough with your own eyes to know that it is not safe for anyone to return home yet. Last night alone, at least 1,000 women and girls were raped." The Consul General looked up from his coffee. There was a moment of awkward silence. Then he put the coffee down on the small table in front of him. He cleared his throat. "We understand that there have been isolated instances of less than exemplary behavior on the part of some undisciplined soldiers," the Consul General offered. "But such behavior should be expected from any army upon entering a city as large as Nanking. Do you see my point? You know of the fall of Constantinople, the Spanish conquest, and of course the liberation of Peking from the Boxers?" "Yes," Rabe interrupted. "Japan was part of that alliance." "Mr. Rabe, history has not endowed the British, the Americans, or the Germans with any moral superiority to lecture Japan. She knows exactly how to treat the people of a country she has just conquered after incurring heavy loss of life." Rabe fumed silently. As a matter of fact, Okasa stood up. His face twitched as he spoke. "The Imperial Army of Japan is here to liberate China from Western imperialism, which has been like a scourge on its history for 100 years. The civilizations of Asia shall now prosper together. Nanking would serve as an excellent example of such prosperity." Rabe wanted to interject, but held his tongue. Rabe stood up too. "Yes, it is a grand plan, Your Excellency," Rabe said as they turned toward the front door. "But the reality we are facing now is that it is simply not safe for any refugees to return home. I'm also very concerned about those soldiers who have surrendered and have been disarmed." "Your concern is greatly appreciated." They were at the front door now. "We know that some Chinese soldiers have been shot." Okazaki lowered his voice. "But we did not anticipate there would be so many prisoners taken. I have received word that a detention camp will be set up on an island in the Yangtze. From this time on, all prisoners shall be treated as humanely as possible." Rabe escorted Okazaki to his car. The Consul General bowed politely before he and his entourage left. Rabe sighed deeply. It was dark outside when Rabe got in his car to go home. He drove along Linhai Road past the entrance of Jingling College. Clusters of soldiers were loitering at the front gate in complete darkness. Rabe slowed but did not stop. No one was safe anymore. If the Japanese viewed him as uncooperative, what chance did he have? A servant opened the gate of his compound, and he drove inside. There were women and children huddled together on the grass, under trees, along garden paths. The car's headlights were switched off, and the compound was plunged once more into darkness. There was very little food and water. What would happen to them if he were gone? He was their only hope now. The safety zone had failed. The walls to his compound were the last chance for these people. He looked back at the front gate again. There were several dark shapes moving in the shadows outside, a shuffling sound made by booted feet. Retrieving his flashlight from the car, he strolled to the front gate. Flickering the light on, he saw several Japanese soldiers peering in the gate. They laughed hoarsely, stepping back into the shadows. He could smell the smoke from their cigarettes. Rabe went right up the gate. "Deutsch!" he shouted, enraged. "Heil Hitler!"